Hey everyone, I'm the Canadian Lad, and I just got back watching Captain America Brave New World for a second time, and I have to admit, lads, this movie wasn't as bad as some of the reviews are making it to be. But did the movie have any problems? Yes, many actually. But not every film is gonna be another Infinity War or Endgame. In this video, I will tell you everything that worked in the film and everything that didn't. And at the end, I will ask you a question, and your answer will tell you whether this is a movie worth watching or not. So without wasting any time, let's get into it. On paper, this movie might feel like a sequel to The Incredible Hulk or Eternals. But if you think about it, if the US government wants to take control of the adamantium found on the Celestial Island, there is really no better person to handle this than Captain America. Cap has always been tied to US politics. It's actually where his journey began. So even though parts of the plot come from films completely unrelated to Cap, but it makes perfect sense that he'd be the one to step up and deal with the situation. And know this, one of the key reasons Marvel made Captain America 4 is to replicate the magic of Captain America the Winter Soldier, which many fans still call one of the best superhero films outside the Avengers. This movie mirrors the Winter Soldier in so many ways, it's kinda wild. First up, both movies kick off with Cap on a government mission where he does 90% of the work. In both films, these missions set the stage for everything that follows. Then there's the familiar team Falcon, a Black Widow, and Cap himself. Plus, both movies deal with mind control. Dr. Stearns controls Secret Service agents, including Isaiah Bradley, much like how Hydra uses trigger words to control Bucky Barnes in The Winter Soldier. Next, Sam Wilson gets attacked in broad daylight by Sidewinder, head of the Serpent Society. He has been paid by Stearns to steal the adamantium and now to take out Sam. This mirrors when Bucky attacks Nick Fury on the street, having been ordered by Hydra to eliminate the SHIELD director. Then Steve and Natasha uncover Arnim Zola's digitized mind at Camp Lehigh, revealing Hydra's infiltration of SHIELD and the true purpose of Project Insight. And in this movie, Sam and Joaquin find Samuel Stearns at the Black Site Camp Echo 1, where he's been a prisoner for 16 years working on secret projects for Ross. Both films even end similarly too, where rather than fighting the villain, Cap tries to talk them down. In Winter Soldier, Steve refuses to keep fighting Bucky, hoping to reach the friend he once knew. And in this movie, Sam refuses to fight Red Hulk, believing that deep down Ross can still change. These are all huge positives for the film. After all, if you're drawing inspiration from one of the best MCU movies ever made, you are definitely on the right track. But here's where the issues pop up. The film was heavily marketed as a Cap versus Red Hulk showdown. But in reality, Red Hulk only appears on screen for about 8 minutes. Now let's rewind 11 years, when Marvel dropped 2 trailers for Captain America the Winter Soldier. Both trailers made it look like Bucky, aka the Winter Soldier, was the main villain. But in the end, the real antagonist turned out to be Hydra, secretly infiltrating the government and SHIELD. Now Marvel applied the same marketing strategy for this movie, constantly showing Red Hulk as the main villain. But the big mistake already happened when they revealed Tim Blake Nelson returning as the leader. That pretty much gave away that Dr. Stearns would be the real villain and likely transform Ross into Red Hulk. Now imagine if Marvel hadn't spoiled that reveal. And what if Red Hulk's appearance was kept a secret too? Then the audience would have gone crazy when it happened on screen. But if you're gonna reveal them in the trailer, you gotta make sure you only show the tip of the iceberg, instead of showing everything. And I also understand why Marvel did this. Marvel had to rely on Red Hulk to sell the film because they didn't want to spoil anything about Dr. Stearns. The issue though is that if Stearns had a proper character arc, the trailers would have had plenty of material to work with without giving away too much. But since Stearns' arc was underdeveloped, Marvel overcompensated by focusing the marketing on Red Hulk, even though he only really plays a major role in the final 8 minutes. In contrast, the Winter Soldier kept Bucky as the main villain the entire movie, right after his change of heart in the end. The audience wasn't misled by the trailers, as Bucky was one of the main villains, even though Hydra was the real threat. So if you think about it, the audience got more than they were promised. Now don't get me wrong, there's no issue with marketing a Cap versus Red Hulk film, but if that's what you're selling, Red Hulk needs to be a bigger part of the story, not just a brief appearance at the end. If you ask anyone about this movie, they'll likely mention the Red Hulk fight and the battle on Celestial Island, because those are very well written scenes along with some very well choreographed action action sequences. But here's my problem. Why didn't the whole movie live up to that? Why not give Dr. Stearns a deeper, more compelling storyline that makes us sympathetic towards his character? Marvel tends to make the same mistake, telling too much and showing too little. If I were writing this movie, I would visually show how Ross brutally tortured Stearns for years, locking him up to force him to create his medicines, and by the end, Ross would take responsibility for his actions, similar to what he did in the film. That way, both Ross and Dr. Stearns would have stronger character arcs, and the story would feel more satisfying. Despite the issues, there are still some great things about this film. One of the highlights is that each and every character took themselves seriously. Hell, even Harrison Ford acted his heart out as Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross. He wasn't just there for the paycheck, you could tell that he truly embraced the role. And I cannot emphasize enough how good of an actor Anthony Mackie is. Both he and Danny Ramirez have incredible chemistry. Every time they're on screen together, it just clicks. Another fantastic thing is the quality of the dialogue. The characters don't just say random lines, they speak in a way that feels true to who they are. This is something that was really lacking in Thor: Love and Thunder, where they turned a god into a joke. Now let me give you an example that truly proves this movie is getting some irrational hate. Take a look at this powerful moment where Ross opens up to Sam Wilson and says, "I had to survive so that my daughter knew there was more to her father." Hearing this, Sam Wilson says something incredibly powerful with a very simple line of dialogue. He says, "I know what it's like to feel you have something to prove." This line is so real. As a black man, Sam knows what it's like to struggle with things others may not have to face. Just like Steve Rogers, the skinny little kid who was constantly bullied and had to prove himself every step of the way. Both of them in their own ways understand what it feels like to have something to prove. The ending of this film truly solidifies Sam Wilson as Captain America. There's a moment where he says to Red Hulk, "Ross, we both know you can take me out with one punch, but I don't think you want to do that. I might be crazy, but I think you're trying to change." Here, Sam was terrified to his core walking towards Red Hulk, but he still didn't back down from telling Ross the truth. He chose not to fight Red Hulk knowing it's Ross underneath. Just like Steve Rogers said to Bucky,
"I'm not gonna fight you. You're my friend."
both Steve and Sam stepped away from a fight knowing that the person they're fighting are not in control of themselves. Their instinct is to lay down and let the other guy crawl over them, instead of just cutting the wire. This is what makes them worthy of the Captain America mantle, and this film did a remarkable job with it. Now more than ever, I'm convinced Sam Wilson truly deserves to be Captain America, and Steve Rogers made the right choice. So now let me ask you the question that I said I would ask. Do you have more respect for Sam Wilson after watching the film than you did before watching it? If your answer is yes, then you have to admit the movie succeeded in its goal. Yes, the film has undercooked villains, little to no character developments for the side characters, but what it nails is Sam's never give up attitude. There's a scene where Joaquin Torres, lying in a hospital bed, says something really interesting. He tells Sam, "You never messed up like I did. You never got shot out of the sky and nosedived into the Indian Ocean. You are always on point." Sam chuckles at first, but then gives a profound response. He says, "If I'm not on point, I feel like I let down everyone else who was fighting for a seat at the table." He then finishes by saying this pressure of always being on point weighs on you. Makes you wonder if you'll ever just be enough. This line, along with Anthony Mackie's incredible acting here, is really what Captain America is all about. So here's the bottom line. The movie may have a weak-ass villain, some horrible CGI, and side characters that didn't really need to be there, but what it got right was cementing Sam Wilson as Captain America, a man who's 100% capable of leading the Avengers, just like Steve Rogers. Also, anytime someone complains that Bucky should have been the new Captain America, not Sam, well, I hear you, and what you're saying makes sense too. I mean, Bucky's a super soldier, and he's a better replacement for Steve. But, and please hear me out here, during the events of Civil War, at one point it was Steve Rogers who took instructions from Sam Wilson rather than the other way around.
We gotta go. That guy's probably in Siberia by now.
We gotta draw out the flyers. I'll take Vision, you get to the jet.
No, you get to the jet. Both of you. The rest of us aren't getting out of here.
All right, Sam, what's the play?
We need a diversion. Something big.
Steve was clearly more concerned about keeping everyone safe here, but Sam was ready to do the sacrifice play. And that's why Steve listened to Sam's suggestion. It's not an everyday thing where someone would be capable enough to tell Steve Rogers what to do, and Sam did that. He may not have the super soldier serum yet, but he represents Steve with every bone of his body. You know, it used to be that whenever a new Marvel movie came out, critics would give it extra points just for being a Marvel title, but now it feels like they're deducting points even before they've seen the movie simply because it has Marvel's name on it. What used to be a Marvel boost has now turned into a Marvel tax, and that doesn't seem fair. And giving them extra points without seeing the film is not fair either. My point is, this movie doesn't deserve worse reviews than something like Thor: Love and Thunder. That was a dreadful movie and Marvel knows it. Captain America: Brave New World may not be perfect, but it's nowhere near as bad as some are making it to be. So the next time you read a review of a Marvel film, remember critics are in a place where no matter what, some will focus only on the negatives. Captain America has always been my favorite character in the comics, and my audience knows that from day one. Trust me, if this film was bad, I'd be the first to say it. And I am calling out Marvel for how poorly they wrote the villains of this film. They really did a horrible job with that. But even with that, I still enjoyed the movie. I'd say they got at least 71% right. And if you're hesitating to watch it, thinking it won't be worth your time, I'd say give it a shot. It's not a masterpiece, but it's certainly not as bad as some critics are saying. Let me know your thoughts on the movie. I really want to have a discussion with you lads. The question that I asked, I hope you take your time and answer it in the comments. I really want to know where my audience stands on this. And my message to Marvel is this: try writing a movie that won't divide fans into groups where one half love it and the other half hate it. Try writing a movie that unites people from all over the place. Because movie theaters are still one of the few last places where people don't care about what country, ethnicity, or race you belong to. They go there to get immersed into the story of another. So write a story that is worth our precious time and money. Something that makes us want to take our families and friends to the theater. Instead of counting on your name and luck, count on your writers to do better. If you could give us movies like The Winter Soldier, Infinity War, and Endgame in the past, you could surely take us for another ride through Fantastic Four, Avengers Doomsday, and Secret Wars. I'm counting on you, Marvel. Don't let us down.